Hello, good evening and welcome to News 360 live from our studio here at Adesawe in Accra. I am Martin Esiedudate.
And I am Judith Brown. Coming up this evening.
News 360 headlines is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint,
Pepsodent Charcoal and Pepsodent Herbal.
Private legal practitioner Martin Pebu urges 4 members of parliament suspended by the Speaker to seek legal redress in court.
All right, so that's Martin Pebu, who's asked that the 4 members of parliament who've been suspended have an option to go to court to sue the Speaker. Details of that coming up in a jiffy.
Also, Upper West region records 42 suspected cases of meningitis from December. We'll bring you details of that.
23 rebels in Rwanda. The persons who are fighting in DRC say they have made incursions into areas. We'll have details of that and more coming up shortly. I am Martin Esiedudate. I'm here with Judith Brown. We're delving into our first story now. And on Thursday, the 30th of January, chaos erupted during the vetting of ministerial appointees, prompting the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, to suspend 4 members of Parliament involved in the disorderly conduct. The disruption highlighted ongoing tensions within Parliament, raising concerns over the state of governance and behavior in the institution. Legal and political analysts have weighed in on the situation, with private legal practitioner Martin Pebu questioning the Speaker's authority to impose such sanctions. Here's a News Desk report.
Following that, the chairman of the Appointments Committee on Friday, January 31, prior to the start of the vetting, apologized for the unruly behavior of some members. But the matter did not end there. The Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, on Friday, January 31, suspended 4 members of Parliament over the chaos.
The following members are suspended from the sittings of Parliament for 2 weeks from today, in the persons of Mr. Roxon Nelson Eche, Kwame Dafiemapo, and Mr. Frank Ano Dompre. 3, Mr. Alasan Suleimana Tampuli. And 4, Mr. Jerry Ahmed Shaib. As a matter of urgency, and to set up the Standing Orders Committee to reconsider a revision of the rules for the assessment of nominees for the consideration and approval by the House.
The Speaker also directed the Clerk of Parliament to write to the police for a criminal investigation into the chaos that characterized Thursday's vetting. He said members of Parliament found culpable after investigations will be surcharged and sanctioned appropriately.
In pursuance of the provisions of the Constitution 1992 and the Standing Orders of Parliament, I further direct the Clerk to Parliament to formally lodge a complaint with the Ghana Police Service to conduct a full criminal investigation. Any member found culpable shall face the appropriate disciplinary actions as prescribed by the Constitution 1992, the Parliament Act of 1965, and the Standing Orders of Parliament.
However, for private legal practitioner Martin Pebu, the suspended MPs should seek legal redress. Speaking on key points, lawyer Pebu said he doubts the Speaker has the power to impose such sanctions.
It's a democracy. Let's be careful. Because if we don't find it in there expressly, and the Speaker is taking such a decision, we should ask the judges. Let's do so. It's a democracy. Don't play with it. You see, the fact that I know there's anger in the system, blah, 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 one quick justice doesn't also mean that we should make up laws by ourselves when same has not been provided. I think this matter should go to court.
Senior advisor to Alan Chermating, Nana Ohene Nto, who was also on key points, expressed deep concerns over the current state of Ghana's parliament. He said the chaotic scenes witnessed during the vetting of ministerial appointees on January 30 reflects the state of the country and how its people behave.
Now we are seeing a parliament that does not even respect itself. Again, you want us to call you honorable, and then you behave like this. And I'm asking, are you going to force us to respect you? I think this is very disappointing. If the speaker can even broaden the net of who is responsible and who has to be sanctioned.
Because the video captures quite a number of people.
Quite a number of people. That's what I'm saying. It might not just be limited to these 4 people, because otherwise, Parliament is losing its essence. Parliament is losing its value. Parliament is losing its respect with those of us who are sitting outside Parliament.
Economic policy analyst Senyo Hosi noted that MPs continue to show disregard for the very people who elected them.
So much disrespect, and you want us to call you honorables. And when somebody comes there and you anger them and they use descriptions for you, you say they come and apologize to who? You are joking. We will have to deal with this and start acting responsibly. Nobody is superior in this country. When you've been given a mandate to serve the people, you must be focused on that. You must be humble to serve. You must see it as a privilege to impact lives, not to come and throw around your egos. That is all that was playing out there.
For Executive Secretary of the National Interest Movement, Dr. Susan Idwamankwa, the minority members of the committee have not fully recovered from the loss suffered by the party during the December 7, 2024 elections.
They are in the throes of painful grief. And this is where, in the stages of grief, this is where they are. And this is the kind of behavior we are seeing. We are not going to tolerate it because we think they are in grief. That one, they are grown men. They should mask it well. You understand? And maturity is able to mask and hide your feelings and move on.
And after that incident, many of you have been sharing your thoughts on what you thought or made of Ghana's parliament. Let's find out what the thoughts of Dr. John Osai Kwapong is on this particular development. He is a Democracy and Development Fellow at CDD Ghana. A very good evening to you, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening to you as well.
Many said that based on how the 8th Parliament played out and that because there was lack of proper scrutiny and punishment, what happened in the 9th Parliament shouldn't be a surprise to anybody. But what are your thoughts? Were you surprised, and is there any sense in comparing the 2 parliaments?
You know, yes, there's a basis for the comparison. And part of that basis for the comparison is the fact that I think when we all look back at some of the key incidents in the 8th Parliament, there was a hope and expectation that a lot of the acrimony that we saw almost all the way to the end, with even the declaration of some seats as vacant by the speaker and the aftermath of that a lot of people were hoping that we would move away from that in the 9th Parliament. So even if you look at how the 2 main political parties were campaigning, they kept emphasizing that if you vote for their presidential candidate, make sure you vote for their parliamentary candidate as well. Because I think the parties wanted a clear majority so they can do business and conduct the affairs of the House. What happened, though, was quite unfortunate and also very disappointing. Disappointing in the sense that I would like to believe that issues around this vetting over matters such as do we extend the vetting or do we adjourn and return the next day would not degenerate to a point where we see chaos and we see destruction of state property. And so that for me was the shocking and also the disappointing part of what transpired. And, you know, a lot of Ghanaians, in my opinion, are justifiably horrified at what they're seeing, because it didn't speak well of Parliament as an institution.
Right, and some are also saying that we are overly stretching this particular issue, because in other parliaments, it's actually even worse than what we saw in Ghana's parliament. Is that a fair comparison to make, you think?
Well,
that naturally, because you have people of opposing views in one area, definitely those opposing views could go further into some of the scenes we saw, and that in other countries or other parliaments around the world, it is worse than what we saw. So is it fair to even look at this kind of ideology?
So, I mean, I get it that when you have deep partisan positions, that sometimes people's political temperaments would get the better of them, and conversations and arguments and debates on the floor can degenerate. But at the end of the day, Ghanaians have to live with the actions of their parliament and their members of parliament. And so even if in other countries, and I'm sure we've all seen scenes from other countries where parliamentarians have also engaged in, fist fights. But at the end of the day, our primary concern and our primary worry is our parliament and how our parliamentarians conduct themselves. And for me, in as partisan as sometimes some of these issues that crop up in Parliament can become, I don't think that it should get to the point where it degenerates into the kind of situation that it degenerated into, especially because most often I see parliamentarians refer to each other as my good brother, my good friend, my good sister. So it baffles my mind that in such moments of contention, there appears to be no reservoir of goodwill that they can tap into to smoothing out whatever deep disagreements they may be having. And that for me is a worry. And I don't think we should judge the conduct that we are rightly appalled by saying, well, we've seen worse situations in other parliaments, because that then seems to suggest that the behavior of the members of parliament are justifiable. And I don't think any Ghanaian wants to justify what they saw.
Right. Two final questions before you take leave of us. The next one has to do with the fact that, the general overview of the vetting so far, many have also thought that from the majority side, they have the numbers, and a quote from your earlier submission was the parties, or people actually voted for the parties to have a clear majority. And the NDC does seem to have the clear majority, but we are not seeing or feeling that kind of, show of the fact that they have the majority. And so there are those who are saying the minority, led by Alexander Penyo-Markin, seem to be bullying the NDC rather, and making it look like they are rather the victims. And it is leaving the critical questions that need to be asked these nominees out of what has been done in the last 2 weeks or so. Do you agree with this assertion?
The chairman has a very difficult role to play on the committee. So yes, the NDC has a clear majority, but in a democracy, whilst you want the majority to exert the force of the numbers that they have, you also want to make sure that whatever proceedings are going on, that the minority is protected. That is the balance, or the difficult balance, that the chair of the committee has to find a way to manage. So he has to enforce the rules, he has to be firm, but he also has to be impartial, and he also has to be fair to everyone gathered around the table. I don't believe that it necessarily means that the NDC has to flex its powers to show that they have the majority. Because when you do that, it further creates more acrimony and creates more adversarial type of atmosphere in there. But this is where, for me, the role of the chairman becomes very critical, right? The chairman has to find a way to make sure that the proceedings are managed in a way that respects the majority, but also protects the minority. And yes, I would agree that there's more of a show of force from the minority, but I don't think the counterpunch to that should be an even greater show of force from the majority side, because then you would just escalate some of the things that you don't want to see escalating at these vettings.
Doc, I said two, but I'll leave it here for now. Thank you so much for making time to engage us. Dr. Saikwapo is a Democracy and Development Fellow at CDD Ghana. Thank you so much for your time. You're still watching News 360 on TV3.
Now, Foreign Affairs Minister-designate Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa says he will work to eliminate unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles for applicants of the Ghana passport. Speaking before the Appointments Committee on Friday, he also emphasized the need to promote good neighborliness amongst security threats in the sub-region.
First Minister-designate Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa expressed dissatisfaction with the current system of passport acquisition in Ghana. He argued that Ghanaians who already possess the Ghana card should not be required to undergo additional biometric registration to acquire their passports.
I would like to use technology to reform our passport regime. I don't think that we should still be requiring Ghanaians who have a Ghana card to go to passport office for their biometrics. I would want to engage the Ministry of Communications. I've already started talks with the Honorable Sam George, so that you don't need to go to a passport application center if you have a Ghana card. We should be able to interface. It should be possible to sit at home, apply for your passport. And then also, I want to end this business of going back to the passport office for your passport. It's so outmoded. We can engage courier services.
Foreign Affairs Minister-designate Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa also outlined how President Mahama's administration plans to address the issue of brain drain in the country. He noted that the government will enter into bilateral agreements to allow Ghanaian professionals to work abroad.
I will seek to aggressively pursue economic diplomacy in a way that allows for bilateral agreements to be signed. There are many countries looking for Ghanaian nurses, looking for Ghanaian teachers, looking for Ghanaian professionals, looking for Ghanaian workers in the domestic sector, artisans. Why can't we take advantage of that to solve our unemployment crisis and also to regulate the space so that what is happening in the Gulf to some of our workers, our fellow compatriots, is addressed?
Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa also emphasized the importance of Ghana maintaining strong diplomatic ties with the Sahelian states.
Threat of violent extremism and terrorism. And so, as good neighbors, President Mahama is of the view that he should not give up on dialogue. Article 40 and Article 73 of the 1992 Constitution enjoins the President and all of us who will be working in the foreign service space that our strategic national interest should always be at the center of our foreign policy consideration. And we have historic ancestral ties. It is very strategic for President Mahama to say that I want to help resolve this Sahelian crisis. And that is why he appointed the respected, venerable Flight Lieutenant Colonel Beblolate.
Now, organized labor says it will demand a salary increase for 2025. According to the leadership of organized labor, the 25% salary increment for public sector workers in 2024 has been eroded by inflationary and macroeconomic trends. Labor Affairs correspondent Daniel Opoku has been engaging with labor following the vetting of Sector Minister Dr. Rashid Pelpuo.
The Minister of Labour, Jobs and Employment took his turn at the vetting committee on January 30, 2025. Some committee members sought to find out from the sector minister about government 24-hour economy. Others also posed questions about job creation for the teeming unemployed youth. But of utmost interest to some committee members were issues about salary increment for this year. But the sector minister, Dr. Rashid Pelpuo, responded that government may consider increments after meeting with organized labor and other key stakeholders. But his response has generated some mixed feelings among the leadership of organized labor. The Secretary General of TVC, Joshua Ansam, and the General Secretaries of NAT and TEU insisted that government must announce an increment this year.
So we are ready, waiting for the minister to be vetted, and today, thank God, he has been vetted, and the moment the president swear him into office, I think that you commence negotiations in earnest. And I think there's no way that you will say that there will be no increase to Ghanaian workers.
The increasing of the salaries is to help workers to meet their basic needs. We are not even talking about living wage. We are talking about help workers to meet their basic necessities of life. And so salaries will have to go up. Take note, the CD, the depreciation of the CD and all that. Okay? We should be careful not to be pushing workers under the poverty line. No.
The Secretary General mentioned that we are even trying to move outside the minimum wage to a living wage. Because now the minimum wage is about, that's $1 less than 50 cents. And you expect a worker, the wife, and at least 4 children to live on that? So there's no way we will not expect anything. We are very expectant.
In a related development, the Sector Minister, Dr. Rashid Purple, before the committee, assured of implementing a pension unification. Under the pension unification, security agencies are expected to contribute towards their pension but have failed. Figures from the Finance Ministry indicate that government expends over 300 million cedis to pay benefits of staff of these agencies who do not contribute towards pension. Labour has indicated that the Sector Minister, Dr. Rashid Purple, should be firm to implement the pension unification.
If the political will is there, he will get the support of those who are not part of those who are earning more than those who contribute to. And I must be frank with you that this thing is draining the coffers of the Senate itself and also the government. Because if you don't contribute to a scheme and you are paid, where are they getting that money from? So I think that no contribution, no job should be one of the key things that we all have to look at.
The way they are handling our pension monies, when it comes and all that, and the way they go about compensating workers, even if God gives you 80 years, the moment you hit 60, you beg God and God, please, if you can add that one to somebody, let me go back home. Because life after pension, go and ask the pensioners. Go and ask them. If not so, why should pensioners come out and come and demonstrate?
His Excellency is coming to reset Ghana, and he has talked about even abolishing Article 71 office holders, ex gratia. And so even the security sector, they also do peacekeeping. A percentage of that peacekeeping should be saved towards they enjoying their pension with it.
Meanwhile, the General Secretary of NAT, Thomas Musa Tanko, has called on government to pay the arrears of the second-tier pension scheme owed workers.
As I am speaking to you now, the 3% penalty within the year I'm talking from August 2023 to August 2024 is about approximately 30 million Ghana cedis. Government has not paid. From July last year up to now, government is owing us 6 months. It's in arrears.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama has announced plans to revoke all mining leases issued for activities in forest reserves under the previous New Patriotic Party administration. At the swearing-in of his third batch of ministers on Thursday, January 30, President Mahama tasked the new minister, Emmanuel Amakofiboa, with safeguarding the environment against the menace of illegal mining.
Honorable Kofi Amaboa, as Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, you'll be charged with the duty of safeguarding the environment from marauding galamseyers and managing our natural resources effectively. Let me take this opportunity to state that it shall be the policy of this government to ban the issuance of leases for mining in all forest reserves. We shall also move promptly to revoke all leases issued for the same purpose under the previous government. In addition, let me state categorically that this government has not given any person or group of persons any authority to carry out any form of mining in these forest reserves as recently reported. I urge the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Minister for the Interior, Attorney General and Minister for Justice to take immediate steps to ensure the arrest and prosecution of any persons or group of persons engaged in this illegality. I also need to state here that no member of this government is permitted to engage in any form of small-scale mining or galamsey. Any such persons will face sanctions which shall be swift and severe. We intend to call a stakeholder consultation on the menace of galamsey to forge a broad consensus on the measures we intend to take to preserve our environment from wanton destruction. This will involve, but not limited to, the following: a river guard, which will employ youth from the communities affected by illegal mining, cleaning and eliminating toxic substances from our water bodies, reclaiming mined-out lands, training small-scale miners in sustainable mining practices. We've also begun the establishment of the Gold Board, which will ensure that Ghana gets the full benefit of the bountiful natural resource that God has blessed us with.
Well, let's now engage someone who has been championing the preservation and protection of Ghana's environment. Daryl Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Environmental NGO Arocha Ghana. Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, the President has told Ghanaians that the government will ban the issuance of licenses to mine in forest reserves and revoke all existing licenses. Now, is this good news for you, or do you believe more concrete actions are needed?
Good evening to you, and thank you for having me. I must say that it is certainly good news to hear the President talk about plans they are putting in place to revoke all licenses in forest reserves. As you know, in the previous administration, we were really fighting very hard to deal with the indiscriminate issuance of licenses or mining licenses in forest reserves, which was really a big problem. And we also saw how the licenses were granted to people who were connected to the government, and these are politically exposed persons, and that's really brought a lot of concern. The fourth estate investigation also yielded these kind of results. So it is really, really happy to hear His Excellency John Dramani Mahama indicate his government's policy to revoke all licenses in forest reserves and also to take steps to address the illegalities that is happening across board. I really want to commend that, and before the election, they committed to this, and I'm very happy that once he's taken office and now there's a substantive Minister for Lands, he has really put forward the policy, and he has even told the Minister to take charge of this tax and make sure that this happens. I think that this is all that we'll be waiting for. Right now, what is needed is really for us to monitor and see how they really realize all of the, policies they have indicated they are committed to.
Now, Mr. Bosu, if you could quite recollect, during the erstwhile Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government, organized labor and many other institutions were calling on the then president, to announce a state of emergency. Do you believe that that is required now that the new president has taken over?
I think right now what we needed was that when they took office, they should have actually announced a cease and desist order, which for us was very, very crucial to let people know that the government is still very committed. That didn't happen. At the moment, with this order that he has given, I expect the various enforcement agencies to get to the ground. After a careful appraisal of the issues, then we can then decide if we need a state of emergency before we get with that. It all depends on how the people who are tasked to work on this really take it. If they don't do a good job and the issues persist as it is now with this indiscriminate impunity, then a state of emergency will be required. But at the moment, let's see how the new government takes steps to really address the menace.
Well, Mr. Bosu, we also know that President Mahama has charged the Attorney General and the Interior Ministers to take steps to address or arrest those involved in illegal mining. Is this a good move?
Yes, it is actually one of the good moves we were waiting for a long time, because we realized that whilst we were going through a transition, there was a lot of takeovers going on, seizures of mining concessions. People were substituting the NPP people who were on the ground and all of that. And most of them were brutal. We heard of some fatalities and saw what happened at Obuasi. So I think that this is very, very important because we saw that on the ground. It was as if nobody was in charge. Miners were marauding community farms and water bodies, but nobody was really addressing it. With this instruction, I believe the police and Syria, everybody has not been called to arms or been called to take action. So nobody will be expected to sit idle and watch for the impunity to continue. We are going to hold each of the police stations at the regional offices, district offices accountable for what is happening in various communities.
Now, we know that the president also did indicate that stakeholder engagements will soon take place on Galamsey to chart the way forward. Now, in your opinion, how soon should these discussions start or take place, and what should be the focus?
Yes, I believe that we don't have to go through the stakeholder engagements we did during the era of the previous government. We need to have a different approach to bring really very targeted groups of individuals and experts together. Then we can forge a way forward. So I think it should be now that we have the Honorable Minister in place, as soon as possible this should be organized. And what needs to be done is take what was done before, the issues that were put forward, the recommendations, which were the gaps, which were not addressed, which one needs to be addressed. Law enforcement and compliance is still very much a challenge, and that for me should be the priority for any discussion with stakeholders that's going to happen very soon. So we need to see how really we can also empower communities, because so far it's been a top-down approach, but the power lies with the community people. We need to learn to empower them, and we need to learn to respect and listen to them. We've had a situation where communities complain a lot, but nobody listens to them. So I think we need to have a different approach where we let communities lead.
Well, many thanks for your time. Dara Bosu is the Deputy National Director of Arocha Ghana, which is an environmental NGO.
Now, President John Dramani Mahama says Africa stands at the crossroads of unlocking a $3.4 trillion market in job creation if it takes value addition to raw materials seriously. Speaking at the Africa Prosperity Network Dialogues 2025, the president emphasized that Africa must transition from exporting raw materials to exporting finished products.
We must strengthen African supply chains to ensure that our industries produce goods and services that meet both regional and global standards. We must harmonize our trade policies to eliminate non-tariff barriers and reduce the cost of doing businesses across borders. We must fast-track the full operationalization of the Pan-African payment and settlement system to facilitate the payment for goods and services across our continent. If we commit to these actions, we can unlock a $3.4 trillion market, creating jobs and prosperity for millions of Africans across this continent. Being exporters of raw material to become producers of finished goods, whether it is cocoa in Ghana, oil in Nigeria, copper in Zambia, or diamonds in Botswana, we must process and add value to our natural resources. Our youth are getting tired and frustrated at the lack of opportunity for realizing their dreams and aspirations. Our decision to embrace democratic governance was supposed to be accompanied by a dividend that will lead to improvement in the lives of our people and prosperity for all.
Now, Sunyani West MP Millicent Yeboah-Mankwat says it is too early to conclude that President Mahama has failed to appoint the 30% quota of women to ministerial positions. According to her, a proper judgment can only be made after the final list is released.
I believe that it is too early to conclude. I believe the perfect time will be the end of the appointment. You know, it will be unfair on our side to conclude whilst we have list of other appointments not being done and other agencies that has not been appointed directors and CEOs. I believe that in his wisdom and at the right time, finally, let's wait for the final list and we can make conclusion of our thoughts in his inability to appoint a lot of women. I believe that the Vice President is also with him and will guide him and assist him in a better direction towards that.
The Upper West region has recorded 42 suspected cases of meningitis from December 2024 to January 31, 2025, with 10 people losing their lives. Upper West regional correspondent Ibrahim Wangara has more in this report.
According to the latest updates, 5 patients are currently on admission, with 4 in stable condition and 1 still battling to survive. Health officials in the Upper West region have identified 2 major factors contributing to the deaths recorded.
But what is strange this year is that we haven't gone far, and the region has already started reporting higher than usual cases, and also the deaths associated with the cases is also quite high. We realize that the cases that died came in very late, and so it was difficult for the health staff to manage them. We also identified cost as a major barrier to health service delivery. Almost all the cases that ended up dead did not have health insurance.
In an effort to curb the situation, the Director General of Ghana Health Services dispatched a national rapid response team to the area. The team has announced free health treatment for victims suspected of struggling with meningitis within the region.
And so the Director General said that what can we do differently this time? That we will minimize the casualties of people who are dying from meningitis. So we have come, and then after going around to facilities, visiting people who are sick on admission, meeting the regional team, getting to speak to the communities, it is very clear that people have some barriers to access care. And that's what the regional director has alluded to. The barrier was, first one was the financial barrier. And so we have advised, putting our heads together, a technical team, we have advised and then communicated to the Director General, who also is in support with us that let's take an action now. And the action now is that anybody who is suspected to be having meningitis within this reported region, when you come, there shouldn't be any financial barrier. You should have access to the care free of charge. And then you'll be able to document it and get it to him.
The Regional Health Directorate is urging residents to seek medical attention immediately if they exhibit symptoms of meningitis, such as fever, headache, and stiff neck.
We are just at the beginning of the season. February, March is where the problem is likely to be. So we are in for a long haul. But with commitments from all of us, certainly, if not, that people will not fall sick, at least those who fall sick will not die. So that is assurance.
In the meantime, health officials are advising residents to take precautions to prevent the spread of meningitis. This includes avoiding close contact with sick individuals, washing hands frequently, and seeking medical attention immediately if symptoms persist. Ibrahim Wangara, TV3 News, Upper West Region.
In other news, the Asantehene Otumfuo Tutu II has expressed satisfaction of the progress of renovation works at the Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital under his initiative dubbed the Heal Komfo-Anokye Project. Now, the first phase of the $10 million project has been completed to provide a conducive healing environment for those who seek medical care at the hospital.
Realizing the poor state of treatment facilities at the second largest teaching hospital in Ghana, the Asantehene in November 2023 initiated a fundraising project to mobilize $10 million to put Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital to shape. The facility, though receives referral from 12 out of the 16 regions of Ghana, cannot provide a comfortable healing environment due to the continuous deterioration of both physical infrastructure and medical equipment. 14 months after launching the project, the first phase of the renovation works has been completed. 2 out of the 4 blocks have undergone a major facelift to provide quality health services for patients. But there is more to be done.
So we are immediately going to evacuate the patients from the makeshift ward into the facility that you have seen, so that it will give way for us to be able to do the second phase, which will comprise of A1 and then A2. We are optimistic that this time round we'll be able to work with the speed of light, because a lot of the things that we needed for the project are all here. For us to be able to raise close to $4 million in about 6 months is something that is worthy to commend. However, what is left is more. So we'll therefore use this opportunity to continuously appeal to all and sundry. For those that were skeptical about the use of the money, at least you have seen the quality of work that has been done.
The Asantini Otumfo said to the second was content with the work done so far after inspecting progress of the project.
Na sika ya hwe no yebetimi dia ya dia kani nyina na konfa no che da kani nyina bet se die na eba be huru ye no.
Some of the major donors of the project, who also appeared satisfied, have pledged to continue contributing to the initiative.
We've come to see that our money has really put to use, very good use. We've seen the quality of the work done, very impressive and so encouraging. I think this is even motivating us to try and even contribute more, so that the work will be completed very soon.
With only 40% of the targeted amount received so far, the Asantini is still entreating the public to all contribute towards fixing Konfanochi Teaching Hospital to make it a preferred choice when it comes to healthcare services.
Now we're staying in the Ashanti region, where unfortunately earlier today fire ravaged several shops at the Swami Magazine Industrial Cluster. The latest incident occurred, we are told, Friday night. According to eyewitnesses, the fire started around 11:30 in the evening. Several wares were burnt, including numerous vehicles. Some have linked the inferno to power fluctuation, while others attributed to overexposed live wires. An eyewitness said the firefighters battled for hours before bringing the situation under control. And on your screens, you can see some of the vehicles, some private, some public, totally gutted by the fire.
Now, GCB Bank PLC has rolled out a special loan package for micro and small enterprises, customers whose businesses were destroyed in the devastating fires at Kantamanto and Techima markets earlier this month. Now, the package is aimed at supporting the affected individuals in reviving their businesses.
The devastating fire at the Kantamanto and Techima markets left many individuals without any source of livelihood. In response to the disaster, GCB Bank PLC has stepped forward to provide financial assistance to those affected. At a ceremony held at the GCB Bank branch at the Liberty House in Accra, representatives from the bank announced that an amount of 3 million Ghana cedis will be provided to support victims of the fire outbreaks. The head of retail banking, Sina Kamagate, assured that the bank is committed to supporting the community, particularly during times of crisis.
GCB is a bank that cares for its customers. When disaster struck, we came in, and this is exactly the support we are giving them. The package is to, as it were, relieve them of the grief. And so what we have done is to give them a 9 months period to pay this loan. And in this 9 months, in the first 3 months, they are not going to pay service any amount.
He further mentioned that the bank is implementing measures to help its SME customers manage their savings effectively and ensure they protect their capital.
As a bank, one of the things we do is to provide business advisory support. And we've been doing this over the years, and we'll continue deepening it. We have learned lessons from this disaster, and because of this, we are going to deepen our financial literacy and business advisory support.
Now, a non-profit organization, the Florence Mensah Foundation, with support from Reflow Company Limited, producers of Reflow sanitary pads, has distributed sanitary pads to 300 learners at the Keji Haveji AME Basic School in the Keta municipality. This initiative is part of a project dubbed 1000 Girls Project.
The 1000 Girls Project is an initiative by the Florence Mensah Foundation, a non-profit organization in partnership with Reflow Company Limited, aimed at addressing period poverty by ensuring an all-year-round supply of sanitary pads to pupils in selected schools across the country, with the ultimate goal of ensuring adolescent girls are in school at all times.
This is our second visit to Keta. We came for the 6-month supply 6 months ago, and now we've come to complete the project here with another 6-month supply. And it's very, very important to us, the girl child, because, you know, it's become very expensive for these young girls to afford sanitary pads.
She expressed the organization's desire to partner with government to implement the free sanitary pad distribution to Ghanaian schoolgirls, as announced by President Mahama during the 2024 electioneering campaign.
Reflow Company Limited, along with the Florence Mensah Foundation, we are ready. It's something we've been doing already, and we are more than ready to support the government in implementing this.
Some beneficiaries who spoke to TV3 News expressed gratitude for the gesture.
In the past, I used to suffer before getting pad or to buy pad, because pad is very expensive. If you don't have money, you can't afford pad. And now Reflow has helped me a lot by providing me pad. I'm so excited. Thank you, Reflow, for providing me pad, and I've received 6 pad.
I'm glad to have Reflow pad, because last year they give us 6 and this year they give us 6 too. It helps me a lot, because for now the Reflow is pad is expensive. It's too costly. We can't afford anyone for ourselves. So we thank Reflow for helping us, for giving us pads.
Togbe Jaukim Akwalache, the fief of Keji, who graced the occasion, appealed to other organizations to emulate the gesture by the foundation.
This is why intervention by the foundation should be an exemplary commitment that other organizations will also emulate. This is just the beginning, and I'll urge you to come back again and also design some product for our boy girls as well, not only the girl child. Let's think about something that will also encourage the boys.
Still watching News 360 on TV3. When we return, we'll let you know what's happening in the world of sports. Stay with us.
You're still watching News 360. Now, Grace Mobility Ghana has introduced its first electric vehicles. Now, the company says it is committed to driving a sustainable future, aiming to address both environmental and economic challenges.
Mobility Ghana stands at the forefront of transforming transportation in Ghana as one of the country's first fully electric vehicle dealerships. The company offers a diverse range of electric vehicles from leading brands such as Wuling, Jimpen and Honki. Chief Executive Officer of Grace Mobility Ghana, Subi Akkad, highlighted the importance of the vehicles.
We apologize for the issue with our sound there, but it's now time for sports.
Hello there, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on New 360. My name is Bilishe. Now on to our first story. In Asante Kotoko's camp, of course, fans have not been trooping in as usual in the last few years. There has been struggle with a number of fans who usually attend stadiums, and we've compiled that in this report.
Asante Kotoko is on an impressive unbeaten run, going 9 matches without defeat. The Porcupine Warriors won 7 in the league and 2 in the FA Cup.
Why?
That form has propelled them to the top of the league standings, but even that is not bringing the fans back.
We are playing some good football, we are getting them the results, but then they are not coming. For me, I cannot tell the reasons why they are not coming.
Kotoko counts their fans in the millions, with Ogum claiming they have over 10 million. And despite a good chunk of these fans based in their traditional home of Kumasi, they struggle these days to fill the 40,000 capacity Babayara Stadium. It is a major concern to Ogum. The decline in attendance at their home games continues to worsen each week, raising concerns among club stakeholders. So why exactly are the fans staying away?
It basically has to do with the fact that the promo ahead of the home games seems to be quite low. Again, the Babayara Sports Stadium is a huge venue. This is a facility that can take up to 40,000 and over spectators.
Let's say Kumasi Asante Kotoko qualifies for the CAF Champions League or the CAF Champions League. I'm telling you for a fact, this stadium will be full.
At first, our performance was very, very bad during the start of the season. And once we have started winning, we have to make sure all our PR system will work very hard, all the circles, all the supporters group.
Whatever the reasons, Kotoko's deputy captain, Justice Blay, wants them back quickly. He says empty stadiums are demotivating for the players.
Oh yeah, boom, because me year 2019 I'm buy no. Na ye bo matcha e wa ha. Me cry me free. Tendon na me busted a parking insider. Me who supporters na and you so pese e coming.
Kwesi Apia, Asante Kotoko's head of sporting affairs, urges fans to focus on supporting the club as a whole rather than any individual player. He encourages them to unite behind the team in their pursuit of winning a GPL title.
They need to put their full support for the team. They should know that the team belongs to the king, and anything that they are doing, they are not doing for me or for the players, but they are doing it for the great team. Yeah.
As Kumasi Asante Kotoko chase another Ghana Premier League title, the club will hope their 12th man will show up for them in style.
Of course, Asante Kotoko will be in action later on Sunday. But let's look at all the Ghana Premier League fixtures for the weekend. Of course, Hearts of Oak defeated Pando Hearts of Lions earlier on Friday. And so the fixtures are coming right up your screen. Of course, Vision FC faced Accra Lions. We have Nsua Treman, who defeated Asante, who play against Asante Kotoko. Kerala United versus Brekum Chelsea, Midiama versus Legon Cities, Eduana Stars versus Bechem United, Bibiani Gold Stars versus Samatex, Nations versus Young Apostles, and Dreams versus Holy Stars. Now let's move to the EPL, where Liverpool moved 9 points clear at the top of the Premier League as Mohamed Salah's double saw off a battling Bournemouth at a noisy last weekend's 5-0 defeat at Bournemouth by hitting 7 past Brighton at the City Ground.
Gakpo, will he get onto this first? Oh, he's pointed. Can he break the deadlock? He said out to Salah, and he looks to pick his spot, and he's
Charging forward here for Forest, looks to place it, it's... Langer takes it, flicks on, it's in! There's a header, it's a third! Charging forward now for Forest, still going Wood! And Chris Wood makes no mistake! Can he make matters worse for Brighton? Still going! Sangari was on his way through, Williams! Game. Here's Jota Silva. Could he make it? Yes, he's got it for Nottingham Forest.
A very impressive win for Nottingham Forest. But for Mohamed Salah, he has officially surpassed Frank Lampard on the Premier League all-time scoring list, scoring 178 goals. He's currently 6th on the list, and next in his crosshairs is Sergio Aguero, who has 184. That's it for the sports segment here on News 360. My name is Billy Shen, and of course, over to you, Judith.
And up next is a wrap of some of the major international news stories.
We begin from Eastern Africa, where a major offensive by Rwandan-backed M23 rebels in East Democratic Republic of Congo appeared to have stalled on Saturday after the army took back some grounds. Two civil society sources and a local official said the Tutsi-led rebels have seized Goma, the largest city in East Congo and capital of North Kivu province, which is home to lucrative gold, coltan and tin mines. They then moved on towards Bukavu in South Kivu province, adding to fears of a wider regional conflict, but appeared to be held up on Friday by Congolese troops supported by Burundi's army. Burundian troops have been reinforcing Congolese forces in South Kivu at the request of the Kinshasa government. They are among the forces seeking to block the advance of M23 and the Rwandan army north of Kavumu, a town 35 kilometers north of Bukavu that is home to the city's airport and hosts a number of Congolese drones and other aircrafts. Still in Africa, Mozambican authorities have assured thousands of refugees who fled to Malawi following the recent post-election unrest that peace has been restored in their country and that they are welcome to return home. Officials from Mozambique's Institute of Disaster Management Affairs made the comment during a visit to the Nyamithutu refugee camp in Nsanja district, which hosts asylum seekers from Mozambique. Thousands of Mozambicans have fled to Malawi to escape violence triggered by the disputed October presidential election. To the Middle East, and 3 Israeli hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza were released from captivity on Saturday in exchange for 183 Palestinian prisoners held by Israel. Yarden Bibas, 34, Ofer Calderon, 53, and Cave Sagil, 65, were handed over to the Red Cross, the latest hostages to be released as part of a ceasefire deal struck last month. The Palestinian prisoners were taken in buses to the West Bank, many of them coming from the nearby Ofer prison. According to the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, nearly 47,500 people have been killed in the territory since Israel invaded in the wake of the 7 October 2023 attack, in which around 1,200 Israelis were killed and 251 taken hostage. And finally to Asia, where Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government have unveiled an annual budget focused on appealing to the country's middle class and spurring economic growth by boosting agriculture and infrastructure. Announcing to the annual budget in Parliament on Saturday, the Finance Minister said people earning up to 1.28 million Indian rupees, equivalent to $14,800 per year, will not have to pay any taxes, raising the threshold from 700,000 rupees. The government also lowered tax rates for people earning above the new threshold as the world's 5th largest economy aims to boost domestic demand amid uncertainty over the global economic outlook due to potential new tariff barriers.
And that's how we bring the bulletin to an end. Thank you very much for watching. I am Martin Esiedudate.
And I am Judith Brown. Make sure you join us same time tomorrow evening. Have a good night.
La, 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 la.